Okay. Hello, everyone. It's your old friend, Dr. Andrew Michaels. And I guess we're friends. And it's been requested so many times to hang out with me. Everybody wants to hang out and see what I'm all about. Well, normally I work a lot. But when I'm home and I want to relax, I'll have a little bite to eat and I'll have a couple of drinks. Today, we're going to discuss dealing with our modern culture, loneliness, and how we can combat it. And I am not suggesting you combat loneliness with fine malt liquor. No. But I know a lot of people like bottle capping. So we're going to do some fun bottle capping for everybody. We're going to start off with the biggest bottle cap around, the Mickey's Big Mouth. And this is the Mickey's riddle that was underneath the cap. I don't know if you can see that real well. Mickey's has a riddle. Got this hair under my finger. My muffler on my camera has hair all over it and it gets on my fingers. So gross. See if we can clean that up a little bit. Anyway, there's the cap. And there's the riddle. I don't know if I'm even holding it right. This one's pretty cold. It was in the freezer for about a half hour. It's got frost on it. See that frost? It's a frosty cold Mickey's Big Mouth. Oh, these are called grenades. Little tiny grenades. You drink them and then you throw them at somebody. Little Mickey grenades. Now they do make a 40-ounce bottle, but it's usually in plastic, not glass. Malt liquor was born in glass. Put it back in the glass where it belongs, people. You see that? You like that? A lot of us work odd hours. A lot of us are in the military, hospitals, EMTs, power plants, utility workers, and we don't work 9 to 5. So it takes us away from our family and friends. And a lot of people who are very social, they have lots of friends, they have a big family, and they have a nice spouse, are still very lonely people. And this is going to be great because I know there's going to be those people out there saying, you don't have a life. Well, actually, I have a very full life. I work full time. I do YouTube videos for fun. And I do actually make money at it. And I'm not ashamed of anything I do. I keep my work and my YouTube separate. And unfortunately, my work keeps me very separated from my family at times. But when we do have a day off, usually I have 2 days off. 2 days off with my family. They're working the one day. So we only have one full day a week where we're all off at the same time. and we can go out and do something. So we actually save money because we're not going out all the time for dinner or movies or anything like that. We can only go once a month if we can at all. And I'm also on Fridays. I'm with my family all evening because I'm off until I go to work that night. So we basically spend 3 days a week together, 4 days a week kind of away from each other, and I sleep a lot on the weekends. But when I am working, but we manage to find moments and spend time together, and you can make it work. I've been doing this kind of work for the best part of 15, almost 20 years, and you can make it work. There's a lot of guys in the military that have it 10 times worse than me. I have a pretty unstressful job unless there's an emergency. They deal with emergency situations all the time. And, your police, your firemen, your EMTs, your utility workers, you're constantly dealing with some, not all the time, but a lot of life and death situations that I don't see every day. And you compile that, you just pile that on top of not being around your family. And that's what these guys deal with. And ladies. My niece is an EMT. Young girl, tough as nails. But I always thought she was a very girly girl, not a tomboy. And I wouldn't expect her to be an EMT. She's one tough little cookie. And we are so proud of her. It's not easy. And it's not easy when you're alone. Now, how do you deal with it? Well, you need to find things, hobbies, interests to keep you busy. And I will tell you something, even though we're doing a malt liquor video, this is going to fix it. This is something you do for fun, to have a relaxing little drink, watch a little TV, see what's on Netflix, see what's on Hulu, knock back a couple cold Mickeys, watch some ASMR, enjoy yourself. Sounds like a commercial. Well, that's great. But this is okay to cool down in the evening. But if you're suffering from depression, anxiety, things like that, it's probably not good to pound too many of these down, especially when you're angry. And I will tell all of you for a fact, I had this discussion with my sons different times in their lives as they were growing up, and how to be responsible with alcohol or any other drug, really. If you're angry, frustrated, or mad about something, or dealing with a loss, any kind of drug is usually the worst thing you can do. And if you're under a lot of stress and you're under a lot of physical strain, alcohol is like the worst thing you can do. A lot of people call it self-medication. I call it having a couple cold ones, watching some freaking TV. There's a lot of talk out there that if I pound down this liquor, I'm going to make an alcoholic out of you. Well, I think my audience is smarter than that. I think my audience enjoys my videos, enjoys watching them, and has a laugh at my expense or a laugh with me. Doesn't matter. I'm doing this for you. I have fun with my audience. And I think they're smarter than that. I think you're smart enough to know not to take a tranquilizer and drink alcohol at the same time. For one thing, it says it right on the bottle. And for number two, you know enough people have died that way. I don't think you need me to tell you what you can and can't drink, or whether you should or shouldn't drink, which I just did. I told you, if you're angry, a responsible person probably wouldn't drink. And a very responsible person probably wouldn't pound down a glass bottle of Colt 45, 40 ounce, in one sitting as fast as he can. But I'm not at work, and I'm on my free time, and I'm alone, and there's nobody here to stop me. Look at that. Look at that. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be here with you. And yeah, I actually like being here with you. I like when people make requests. I had a request tonight to deal with some of the issues we've talked about. What it's like to be alone, to be lonely. And sometimes you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. I have that experience a lot. You see, when you're socially awkward because you're away from people a lot in your life, the majority of the hours of your day you're alone. Some people to an extreme. So when you are around people, you sadly kind of feel like you don't know how to act. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I think it's my duty and my responsibility to tell you, yes, sometimes I feel that way. If I wrote an autobiography, the title would be Alone in a Room Full of People. Do you ever experience that? Do you ever feel that way? On camera, you always crack it, label out. On camera. Look at that. Well, Billy D. Billy D knew who to side with. Lando Calrissian knew his stuff. Labels out. I'm going to do it right-handed. Oh. Now I'm going to do it left-handed. Check that out. I'm ambidextrous. Oh, baby. Now, I'm going to do it as the French would say. Right down the middle. Oui, oui, monsieur. Oh, that is cold. That is cold. That was in the freezer too long. I was watching a Tiny Tim video. Tiny Tim Rothschild. I'll put a link down below for him. And then I was watching another fine malt liquor video. And me and the guy talked in the comment section about Mickey's malt liquor. I'm going to put those down below. Malt liquor videos on YouTube have been around a long time, since the beginning of YouTube. Like Steel Worldwide, Tiny Tim. I gotta tell you about Tiny Tim. I have talked to Tiny Tim, but I've never met him. We have a mutual friend, Coon Dog Karma. Coon Dog Karma is the fastest eater in the world. Not the most. You know how that Joey Walnut, or whatever his name is, Joey Peanut, and that Kobayashi guy, they can like eat 100 hot dogs or something, kill themselves. Coon Dog can't do that. He's about a 13 hot dog guy. But he's from Cleveland. He's tough. He is the fastest eater in the world. The man can literally distend his jaw and open his larynx and throat up to accept huge volumes of food in a second. And I met his wife, and his wife and my wife got along. His wife, Coondog, I'm talking about Coondog now. Coondog Karma's wife, top shelf, wonderful lady, the best. Like when I say, I don't meet a lot of people that how many people have I mentioned that you don't even know? Like, I'm telling you, this lady, top shelf. And Coondog, from the minute I met him, from the minute I met Coondog Karma, friends, great guy, really open about everything, easy to talk to, fantastic guy. He wrote a book, The Four Horsemen of the Esophagus. It's about competitive eating. If you ever get a chance, I'll try and find a link, put it down below for Coondog because he's not a YouTube guy. Well, he thought I knew everybody, but I don't know anybody because I'm alone all the time. I don't talk to nobody. So Coondog one day says, "This is a good story. You're getting to know me. You're getting to know me." That's gross. I'm going to leave that right in there. So I'm talking to Coondog. And he says, "I was talking to Tiny Tim." And he wondered why he never did a shout out for him. And I said, "Tiny Tim? I'll shout from Cleveland? Yeah, I'll shout out anybody from Cleveland. You know, I'm all about the hometown crowd, you know." Here, these caps are the best. These little foil and aluminum caps. Look at that. Wait for somebody else to do this. So I said, "Yeah, no problem, Dave. Dave O. Karma, but I call him Coondog." "Who is he?" "Oh, he does malt liquor videos." Bing! He does malt liquor videos. And he thought you could do a shout out to help him out. And I'm like, holy hell, I love malt liquor videos. I really do. I think that I don't know, they're just American, you know? Only in America. And he's a hometown guy. I love Cleveland. I do. I love Cleveland. I love my state of Ohio. If this guy's got a channel, no problem. I'll do a video for this guy. So he did a little one for me. And I did one for him. This was a long time ago. And I'm doing a shout out now because I saw he just uploaded a video. I'll put the links below. And Tiny Tim, he drank a 40 like this. And I think it was wasn't Colt 45, but it was a glass bottle. And he drank it like in a minute and a half, and that's slow for him. He can drink one of these right here 15 seconds. I think the world record, I don't know if it's a world record, I don't know if it's an official Guinness World Record. He has a video where he drank a 40, and I think it was 800 Old English. He drank it in 9.6 seconds. I thought 9.7 seconds on camera. Cracked it, sucked it down, blew the biggest belch you've ever heard. I'm like, oh my Lord. 10 seconds. 9.7, I don't know. You've got to see this. This guy is phenomenal. You've got to have guts to do it. I will tell you this: when you drink, I put this in the freezer, and when I'm done drinking this, if I drink it really fast, like I'm kind of farting around now, but if I pounded this down as fast as I could, it'd take me about 2 minutes. 40 ounces in my stomach of ice cold, sitting in the freezer for 45 minutes, malt liquor. Literally chills your insides. It actually lowers your body temperature, your core. You know, and I'm all about core, core development. You can tell that I have a lot of core development going on here. And, lots of core. Just remember one thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's all paid for. Okay. Excuse me, I had a little break there. Me body just let loose. So, okay, 2 minutes I could drink this, and it affects my body temperature, and the core of my stomach is cold. Like I'm cold inside. I can't imagine what pounding one of these down in 10 seconds would do. Tiny Tim's a big boy. He can do it, make it look easy. And people love him. People have come as far away right-handed. Oh, righteous. People have come all the way from Australia to see and meet and greet Tiny Tim. The man is a worldwide phenomenon. I don't love him, but he's my brother, you know what I'm saying? We're Cleveland brothers, and this year, I went on vacation last year during the NBA Finals when the Cavs beat the Golden State Warriors in 7 games and broke like a zillion records. I was in Florida, and I remember I was in Disney. Now this is good. I want you to know this. This is a good story. I was in Disney Hollywood Studios, okay? There must have been 60,000 people there. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't stay still for 30 seconds that day in that park without hearing somebody say how bad LeBron James was, how bad the Cavs were, how they cheated to win, how they suck. I'm 49. Okay, I want all of you people to know this because this is like true loneliness. I'm 49 years old. I'm sitting in a hotel room on a Sunday night watching the Cavs, the Cleveland Cavaliers, defeat the Golden State Warriors in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. First time a Cleveland team has won in like 54 effing years. I'm sitting there with my wife, my daughter, who's 12 at the time, and my niece, who's 17 or 18. And I'm not a wimp. I am not a wimp. I am not a pussy. I am not a coward. I am not a crybaby. I'm watching LeBron James win that game. I'm watching Kyrie Irving win that game. I'm watching Kevin Love stop Stephen Curry from scoring a tying three-pointer. And I'm crying my effing eyes out. I'm bawling my eyes out, sitting on the end of a bed, watching a flat screen TV on top of a dresser in a crappy, it wasn't crappy, it was actually a really nice hotel. We were in Florida. really nice hotel. I can't remember the name. They were excellent hotels. But I'm sitting on the end of a bed watching a crappy TV in a hotel room, and I'm bawling. And I'm crying my eyes out. And I remember a movie. I'm sitting there watching this happen. And I remember, and my sons are texting me, my sons. My sons are texting me. Every move of the game, my two adult sons back in Ohio are texting me. They're jumping up and down. They're being crazy. They're loving it. It's a moment. It's a moment. It's just a tiny moment in your life that happens, and you're so happy. And I remember a movie called Vision Quest, where a kid, Matthew Modine, is talking to this guy who's a cook at a restaurant who never takes a day off. And the cook takes off to see Matthew Modine wrestle a guy for the state championship. I don't even think it was for the state championship. I think he just wanted to beat this guy in wrestling. So he lowered his wrestling weight down to wrestle this guy. It's called Vision Quest. It's a fantastic movie. You have to see this movie. It was made back in the 80s, you know, because I'm an old bastard. And Matthew Modine says, "You're going to miss work. You're not going to get paid. Why are you doing this?" And the guy says, "I was sitting in my room alone watching World Soccer." Excuse me. And I watched Pele kick a goal upside down and backwards and make that goal, and the whole crowd went crazy. And he says, I was sitting there crying. I was sitting there crying because I had seen something close to human perfection. To see that. And he said, I was crying because I was alone. I was alone. And I thought about that when the Cavs were winning. With my phone in my hand and my TV in front of me and my wife going, shh, you're going to wake everybody up. Because it was like 11 o'clock on a Sunday. And I'm going, Cleveland's going to win. Holy shit. Fireworks. I didn't have any idea when I booked my vacation that the NBA Finals were number one going to have the Cavs. They were there the year before, but I really didn't think they were that good that year because they had a lot of injuries. They had a shit ton of injuries. And I really didn't think they were going to visit the finals, excuse me. Let alone win. And we're going to go on vacation, and they were down. Excuse me. It's very rude. 3 games to 1, and I thought, this is over. Sure as hell, I go to Florida. It's game 7. Cavs are, it's almost a tied score. There are so many historical things about that series. The scores of the two teams were literally a 3-point difference or a 4-point difference. I think the Cavs won the entire series. They were tied like 238 to 238 points going into game 7 or something like that. And the Cavs literally won the whole entire series of 7 games by 4 points. Now, there's some sports guys out there that really know their stuff, and if they can correct me, please correct me in the comments below, because I'll admire you, number 1, because you know your stuff, and number 2, it was that phenomenal. Nobody had ever done this before. Nobody had ever come back from 7 games like this in an NBA championship in like 40-something years. And here's the Cavs doing it. And they win. They win. And I'm thinking about Vision Quest. something I watched in 1985. And I remember the guy saying that he was sitting on the end of his bed and he was crying because he'd seen human perfection right before his eyes. Yet he was alone. And I held up my phone and my sons are texting, 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 texting. And my wife has her hands on my shoulder. And my niece is laughing at her uncle crying. She's laughing. She's loving it. And my daughter's like, well, that's my dad. He's a crazy man. And I'm realizing I'm not alone. You're not alone. If you really take the time to look around sometimes at your life, if you just take a snapshot, you move the whole room around. Move it around. Spin that photo in 360. You might realize you're not alone. Maybe it's that friend that talks to you every day on Facebook. You know that friend on Facebook? They talk to you every day. They actually love you. Maybe not in a weirdo, sexual way, but they do. They love you. And they're worried about you. Those people that comment to you, and that mom that leaves the note for you on the counter, and that dad that makes sure your car got an oil change and there's gas in it. And some people live with their grandparents, and some people live with other family members. Do you think they do that because they feel responsible? Or do you think they actually, one way or another, they love you? I talked about the Cavs before and them winning. And I don't think people realize what it's like to love a place like Ohio. Cornfields, shitty, rundown cities, crappy roads, horrible weather, horrible weather. But in the end of the day, it's where you came from. It's where the people you love came from. I met a little girl in Akron, Ohio, and I fell in love with her. I love Akron. I love Youngstown. I love Cleveland. Cincinnati. Toledo. Holy Toledo. But no, I love the city. I love it. I love the whole place. Columbus. Oh my God. There's this Mecca in the middle of the state of Ohio called Columbus. And they have everything there. Eric Clapton lives in Columbus. For God's sake. I mean, what do I need to tell you more? They have a mall, Easton Mall, in this area called Easton. It's like I don't have to go to Toronto or New York. If I want to see something, I can go down to Easton in Columbus and see whatever I want. And I'm not joking. Oh, there's a new restaurant. It's a chain. It's a franchise. Oh, it's pretty cool. Oh, Cheesecake Factory. Oh, I'll just go to Columbus and go there. I don't have to go to New York or Chicago or LA. It's right there in Easton. That's the way you do it. That's the way, I like it. Okay, so did I talk enough about being a lonely sap? Did I do enough bottle capping? I told you some cool stories. Told you why I love Ohio. I love Ohio because it's where I'm from. A lot of people, they're born and they're raised and they hate where they live. They hate where they come from. Sadly, you can try. You can try really hard. There's people like Halle Berry, and Halle Berry's a good one. And others. I'm trying to think of a name. I love Halle Berry, don't get me wrong. They like to forget where they came from a little bit. They don't want to remember Cleveland so much. But you can never escape it. You can never escape where you went to high school. You can never escape where you grew up. You can tell all kinds of stories about where you grew up. But in the end, you grew up in a nice neighborhood in Ohio. I like to think of Rod Serling, who did Twilight Zone and Night Gallery. He was a wonderful man, but he loved smoking cigarettes, and they ended up killing him. Yeah, true story. Killing him pretty hard, really. But, and to tell a little secret, I kind of have a little Twilight Zone thing going on here with the whole Dr. Andrew Michaels thing. Rod Serling was someone who touched my life. I didn't even know he was from Ohio, and I didn't even know what I was watching when I watched Twilight Zone. I just thought there was a weird, strange familiarity to it. A lot of the cities and towns in Twilight Zone were named after cities and towns in Ohio. Not big ones, little ones. And some of the most frightening, macabre, sadistic, and weird Twilight Zones that happened were based in a town in Ohio. Rod wrote what he knew, and he wrote where he came from. And it's strange that as a child and an adolescent, I didn't put those two together. William Shatner was in Ohio on the Twilight Zone. So many of these stars I grew up with were in Ohio. And Rod Serling put them there. There was this familiarity, this strangeness, this otherworldliness. And of course, I was a little boy. And the most famous astronaut in the whole world, Neil Armstrong, well, and the second most famous astronaut in the whole world, John Glenn, at least when I was growing up, were from Ohio. And John Glenn was a senator, and Neil Armstrong was this quiet, reserved, diplomatic man who taught college in a quiet little nook in Ohio. And I thought, wow, this guy walked on the moon, the first man to walk on the moon. This man was a human computer. This man's mind moved faster than any human's mind at the time. They put Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong together, and these men were test pilots. My God, the stresses they experienced alone. Alone now, people. This is good. Hold on, you're going to like this. alone in a fighter jet amongst all those other fighter jet pilots. These men rose to the top. Super intelligence, fast reasoning, the ability to slow and stop time relative to their position in the universe. Could you imagine what it's like to be Buzz Aldrin for 1 minute? To see all of the stimulus of the universe coming at you in slow motion. Nanoseconds turn into minutes. Minutes turn into hours. You perceive all data at the speed of thought, the speed of light. And you develop what to do next faster than a human being can compute. Could you imagine that? Just think about it for a minute. Neil Armstrong is going to land a lunar lander. He has no point of reference because no one has ever done this before. Now this badass motherfucker is from Ohio. A man from Ohio. No one has ever done what he's about to do. And to make matters worse, they picked a nice flat level plane. A perfect calm sea of tranquility in a rather bumpy and dangerous terrain of the moon. And all alone with no one. No one. 6 billion people on the planet Earth. And in that moment of time, Neil Armstrong, standing beside Buzz Aldrin inside the lunar lander, realizes his landing zone is wrong. They've overshot the perfect landing zone, and they're about to land in a field of boulders. Boulders the size of Volkswagen cars. Time is clicking off of that clock. I don't know if you can hear it. There's a clock clicking this whole video. And Buzz is in trouble. He's in big trouble. He has to do something. And he does something that no one has ever done in any simulation test ever in the 2 years that NASA tested the lunar lander. He pushes it forward fast and long, overshoots his landing zone, and with seconds to spare, puts his lunar lander down in a flat plane in the Sea of Tranquility, in a safe zone. He makes a perfect landing with seconds of fuel to spare. You tell me, 50 years on, I was born in 1968. You tell me, years later, that I can't sit here in front of the camera with you as my guest, brought you into my home, brought you in with me to share a beverage and share some time together, that I couldn't be proud and happy I come from Ohio. In my lifetime, Neil Armstrong did something no human in the history of this planet had ever done. From Ohio. And last year, another human from Ohio, one of the most perfect physical specimens to ever walk this planet, LeBron James. The man is unbelievable. You want to fight him? I'd like to see that fight. All 15 seconds of it. LeBron James takes the Cleveland Cavaliers and defeats the entire world of NBA professional basketball. Brings the title home for the city of Cleveland. Gets on a car, goes through the parade in Cleveland and says, I want to end my career here where I belong. That's a good man. That's a man who loves where he came from. He was in high school and they called him the chosen one. He was in high school 10, 12, 15 years before he played in that game. And people said, that's the chosen one that's going to bring the title back to Ohio. And he fulfilled all the hopes and wishes and dreams of 9 million people that live in this state. How could I not like Youngstown? My children were born here. My wife is from Ohio. How could I not love my family and my wife and my children and my parents, all from Ohio? It's a beautiful place. I'm going to tell you one more thing because everybody thinks you paint the picture with roses. There was this guy called Jim Rhodes. And Jim Rhodes sent National Guardsmen down to a place called Kent State University campus in the 1970s. And it's about 45 minutes from where I live right now today. There's a Kent State Salem branch in Salem, Ohio, right where I live. So believe me, this is my backyard. And Jim Rhodes sent National Guard troops there with M1 rifles with bayonets fixed to disperse a group of flower children, hippie mother effers that didn't have a gun between them. And the whole world has their own view of that. But I want to tell you something. There was an agitator there. They tried to drag him to court. He was protected because he worked for the government. And indiscriminately and without provocation, he fired a small handgun in the air and provoked those troops to fire on those students. Now, he knows he did it. He's still alive. And he knows he did that to those men. And they were defending themselves. Those troops had every right to defend themselves. He knows he fired that small arm. And every power on this planet tried to bring him to justice. But he was protected because all of us are protected by the same Bill of Rights. And as an employee, he couldn't incriminate himself because he worked for the government. But I say to you today, a lot of people look at that event as a black mark against Ohio. But those boys from Ohio were doing what they were trained to do, what they were ordered to do, what they were told to do. Wait. And at the same time, those protesters were doing what they thought were right. They were not violating the law. Someone sent there as an agitator outside of these two groups fired a weapon, caused an instant reaction from those troops the correct action if they were fired upon. We live in a post 9/11 world. Should those troops have defended themselves if they heard gunfire? Yes. Now I know I'm ending this on a somber note, but I want you to think. I want you to think. I want you to process the things that I've said. I want you to listen. I want you to listen with your heart and your mind. People caused the reaction in Ohio to bring those National Guardsmen there. People who live here know there were instigators there, effing with those students. People who lived here knew those students were harmless, knew those guardsmen were only doing their job. Ohio is full of good people. The man who did that, I think he's still alive. They did try to bring him to trial, and he escaped justice. Justice is not perfection. Justice is a scale, and justice is blind. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But you try to balance the scales. I want you to think about that. You'll never really get all good or all bad. In America, God bless America. God bless this country. Oh, I could look up to heaven and with my right hand say, God bless America. People, we have a checks and balance system. And it's not perfect and it sucks. And right now, a lot of people are frustrated with the political movements that we have. And some people are happy with the political systems that we have. You know, the movements. Remember something. It doesn't really matter. 2, 4, 6, 8 years from now, we'll have some different dummies in charge. Because you have a system in place of checks and balances, divisions of power, and your justice system is one of them. Neither all good, neither all bad. We seek a balance. We seek a balance in the United States, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes we feel alone in our political beliefs. Sometimes we feel left out. It's important that you remember that you're part of a system. And it's never going to change unless you get involved a little bit. Quit talking about it and start doing something about it. I personally think we are getting exactly what we deserve right now for some of our lackadaisical attitudes. I think people need to get more involved for the right reason. They need to do good work. And there's nothing wrong with doing good work. And that doesn't mean putting down your enemy. It means coming together. I think there were politicians in this last election that wanted to unify America, and their voices were silenced by corporations and greed and rich people. It's just my opinion. You can't complain because we allowed this to happen to ourselves. We are alone with this guilt. Each one of us bears the burden of this guilt. And the only way to fix this is for us to get involved in the right way. If you believe there's a wrong being done, well, then work towards making it right. If you think everything's fine right now, work towards making things better. How hard is that? Quit putting your enemies down. Work towards making things better. You can do it. I believe in you. And I am talking to you. Someone said they like when I talk to my audience, that they think I interact with you. I do. In some obscene, weird, strange way. I'm here. The camera is there. And all around me, in my mind, there you are. There you are. You, and you, you. What separates the artist from the hack? Hard work, and I will give you hard work. I'll work my hands till they bleed. I'll push my blood pressure till I bleed. I'll give my heart to you. My family knows that. Hold back, they say. Hold back. But I can't hold back. I can't hold back for you. I can't hold back. There's no holding back. If you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. But I just told you to make the world a better place. Each in your own way. So if I'm a jerk, I'm a jerk. But I'm looking right in the camera and telling you, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about making your own existence that you say is lonely better? You see what I do? When I had a moment, the smallest moment of a whole year's time to spend with my family, I spent every minute with them. I don't need a medal for that, and I don't want a medal for that. It's my duty to spend it with them, and it should be your duty to do the same. For example, some of you had the chance to spend the day with a sister or brother, nephew or niece, mother or father. Hold them, hug them. Actually tell them you love them. Did you do that? Well, then you're not alone. You have a lot of nerve saying you are. I am not alone. In a way, I am with you right now. In this moment of time, we're together. Stupid as it sounds, we're communing. We're joined. We are together. We are connecting and communicating. I'm talking and you're listening. Is your real life much different than that? Be honest. Stop looking down at how bad everything is and start looking up. You can do it. I know you can. Because no matter what anyone says, this total dumbass, Dr. Andrew Michaels, actually gives a shit about you. so easily possible. Don't tell me, because I don't want to hear it. I've seen a man drink this in 10 seconds. I've seen a man land on the moon. I've seen a man bring a title back to the city of Cleveland for the whole state. I've seen things that no one has ever seen in their lifetime that's alive today. And I know that the world can change in the blink of an eye. You have to remember, I was there when Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. He was right. Tear down that wall. We're part of a community here. You're a part of the world. You can choose to be alone. You can choose to say that you are. But you can also choose to be a part of it. And you watching this video right now, you've already made a choice. You're part of it. You're part of the world. Keep it going. Not for my sake, but for yours. And I know it's dumb. And I know it's, oh, he's such a nice. Do it for you. Because you deserve it. You're a very important person. You deserve it. You really do. Okay. All right. Until I see all of you again, this is your old friend, Dr. Andrew Michaels, and I'm going to knock one more cold one down for tonight while I'm editing this video. Is that okay? Is that all right? Is that all right with everyone concerned if I knock one down? What do you think? I would love to hear your opinions below. Yeah. Guys like me, we just love getting comments. That's all. Until I see all of you again, please have a most blessed day. And know that Dr. Andrew Michaels loves you. Yeah, this old, fat, middle-aged bastard loves you. So don't go around saying somebody doesn't, because I do. All right? That's saying a lot, because I kind of have an 80% male audience, so I'm putting it out there, you know. I love all you guys. I do. Take care of yourselves. God bless.